He was just a slip of a dog, with fur the color of dusty caramel and ears that flopped over like they were too tired to stand up straight. He trotted down the big city sidewalk, his paws making soft, uncertain sounds against the hard concrete. All around him, the city was a loud and hurried place. Cars honked their horns like angry geese. People rushed past, their faces pointed forward, their minds on places he could not imagine. The dog was a small, quiet thing in a world full of noise and hurry, and he looked awfully lonely. It was the kind of loneliness that sinks deep down into your bones and makes the whole world feel gray. He kept his tail tucked low, a question mark against his skinny body. Every now and then he would stop and sniff at a lamppost or a discarded paper cup, searching for a familiar scent in a sea of strange ones. But there was nothing for him here, not a single smell that reminded him of home, wherever that might have been. The buildings were like giant trees that blocked out the sun, casting long dark shadows that stretched across the pavement. He shivered a little even though the summer air was warm. It was a shiver that came from being lost and all on your own. Sometimes a person would glance down at him, their expression a mix of pity and hurry. They had places to be, things to do. A lost dog was a sad sight, but it was someone else's problem. So they kept walking, their shoes clicking a fast rhythm on the sidewalk, leaving him further and further behind. The caramel-colored dog would watch them go, his big brown eyes filled with a silent plea. He didn't bark or whine, he just stood there, a small island of quiet sorrow in the middle of a rushing river of people, hoping for a single, gentle hand. He eventually found his way to a small park, a patch of green squeezed between two tall apartment buildings. He curled up beneath a bench, trying to make himself as small as possible. He was tired from all the walking and all the hoping. He closed his eyes, and in the darkness behind his eyelids, he might have been dreaming of a warm lap or a soft voice calling his name. But out here, in the big noisy city, dreams felt very far away. He was just a dog without a name, a stray bit of life that had washed up on the shore of this concrete island. It was a little girl named Lily who saw him first. She had bright red boots even though there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and her pigtails bounced when she walked. She was holding her father's hand on their way to the library when she stopped so suddenly that her dad almost stumbled. "Daddy, look!" she whispered, pointing with her free hand. Her dad, a tall man with a kind and weary face, followed her gaze. He saw the small bundle of fur tucked beneath the park bench. His first thought was that they were late, but then he looked at his daughter's face, and he saw the worry etched there. They walked over slowly, so as not to scare the little dog. Lily crouched down, her red boots peeking out from under her dress. "Hello there," she said, her voice as soft as a dandelion puff. The dog opened one eye, then the other. He saw the little girl and the tall man standing behind her. He didn't run, he just watched them, his body tense with uncertainty. Lily's dad had a half-eaten granola bar in his pocket. He broke off a small piece and held it out on his flat palm, moving as gently as he could. The dog sniffed the air. He smelled the sweet oats and honey, and he smelled the kindness too. Kindness has its own special scent, you know. He crept forward, his belly low to the ground, and took the piece of granola from the man's hand with a soft flick of his tongue. Lily giggled, a happy bubbling sound. "He likes it, Daddy," she said. The dog ate the small offering and then looked up at them, his tail giving a single, hopeful thump against the ground. It wasn't much, just a crumb of a granola bar, but it was a start. Lily's dad knew they couldn't take the dog home. Their apartment building had a strict no-pets rule that felt as tall and unmovable as the building itself, but they couldn't just leave him there either. So he took off his own jacket, the one he wore to his office job, and laid it down near the bench. "We'll be back," Lily promised the dog, her voice full of conviction. "We have to go to the library, but we'll come back for you." The dog watched them go, and this time he didn't feel quite so alone. He curled up on the man's jacket, the fabric still warm and smelling of kindness. Lily and her dad did come back just as they promised, and they brought a small bowl of water with them. But they weren't the only ones who had noticed the little dog under the bench. Mr. Henderson, a retired mailman who spent his afternoons reading the newspaper in the park, had seen the whole thing. He had watched Lily and her dad, and it had reminded him of a dog he once had, a long, long time ago. So, he went to the corner store and bought a can of dog food. He spooned some out onto a piece of newspaper and left it near the water bowl. Soon, others started to help in their own small ways. A group of teenagers who usually just listened to loud music on their phones saw the dog too. One of them, a boy named Leo, had a soft spot for animals. He and his friends started taking turns filling the water bowl in the morning on their way to school. They didn't make a big deal about it was just something they did. They started calling him Buddy because he seemed like a friend who just needed a little help. The name stuck. Buddy now had a name. A woman named Maria, who lived in an apartment overlooking the park, started leaving out a small, old blanket for him every evening. She would watch from her window to make sure he was safe, a silent guardian from above. She had lived in her apartment for 10 years, and barely knew her neighbors, but now, she found herself smiling at the teenagers she saw by the water bowl. She even waved at Mr. Henderson, who waved right back. Buddy was becoming a thread, stitching them all together in small, quiet ways they hadn't expected. The acts of kindness were small, but they added up to something big. A piece of a sandwich here, a gentle pat on the head there. A high school student would toss him a tennis ball and Buddy would chase it with a joyful bark. The park, which had once been just a place people passed through, was becoming a place where people stopped. They stopped to check on Buddy. They stopped to talk to each other about Buddy. The small lost dog was no longer just a stray. He was the neighborhood's dog, and his presence was slowly changing the heart of the community. So, something wonderful and honestly kind of strange started to happen in the neighborhood. People began to talk to each other more. Before Buddy, Mr. Henderson would just nod at Maria from across the park. Now they would have these long conversations while they watched Buddy chase a stray leaf. Mr. Henderson would tell her stories from his mail-carrying days, and Maria would share about her grandchildren who lived far away. They even discovered they both loved gardening. Even though one had a small balcony and the other just had a windowsill, they were, becoming friends. The teenagers, led by Leo, started to see the park as more than just a hangout spot. They became its protectors. When they saw litter near Buddy's bench, they would pick it up. They even told younger kids not to be too loud or rough around the little dog. They were showing a sense of responsibility that, honestly, surprised even their own parents. Lily and her dad kept up their daily visits, and pretty soon other families started joining them. The park became a gathering place in the evenings, a hub of gentle activity centered around a small caramel-colored dog. The Buddy effect, as Lily's dad started calling it, was contagious. People who had lived next to each other for years without ever learning each other's names were now stopping on the sidewalk to ask, "How's Buddy today?" A simple question about a dog opened the door to other conversations. They talked about the weather, about their jobs, about their kids. The invisible walls that city life so often builds between people started to crumble, brick by invisible brick. The community was waking up, stretching, and smiling at itself. Buddy, for his part, soaked up all the love like a sponge. His tail was no longer tucked between his legs. It was a happy flag, wagging almost constantly. His coat, once dull and dusty, was getting shinier from all the gentle pats and the better food. He learned the names of the people who cared for him. He would greet Mr. Henderson with a happy yip and rest his head on Lily's knee. He was no longer a lost dog. He was a dog who had found a family, a very big family made up of an entire neighborhood. One afternoon, a big thunderstorm rolled into the city. The sky turned a dark, angry gray, and thunder boomed so loudly it rattled the windows. Rain came down in thick, heavy sheets. Everyone ran for cover, and the park emptied out in minutes. Later that evening, after the storm had passed and the sky had cleared, Leo and his friends went to check on Buddy. They found his blanket soaked and his food bowl overturned. But Buddy was gone. The space under the bench was empty. A cold fear gripped their hearts. Panic spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Lily cried when her dad told her the news, her small face crumpling with worry. Mr. Henderson put on his walking shoes and started searching the nearby streets, calling Buddy's name. Maria got on the phone and called everyone she knew who lived in the area. Soon a small crowd had gathered in the park, everyone with the same worried question on their lips: where is Buddy? They were no longer just neighbors. They were a search party, united by their love for one small dog. They organized quickly. Lily's dad printed out simple flyers with a picture of Buddy and the words, "Lost Dog." The teenagers split up, taking a stack of flyers to every corner of the neighborhood, taping them to lampposts and shop windows. Maria and Mr. Henderson coordinated the search from the park, sending small groups of people down different streets. People who had never spoken before were now working side by side, their flashlights cutting through the evening darkness as they called his name. "Buddy! Buddy!" Their voices echoed through the quiet, wet streets. The search went on for hours. They looked in alleyways, under cars, and in doorways. They asked everyone they saw if they had spotted a small caramel-colored dog. The whole neighborhood was awake and alive with a single purpose. The fear and worry were real, but so was the sense of togetherness. They were all in this together for Buddy's sake. They were not going to give up. They would search all night if they had to. The little dog who had brought them all together was lost, and they were determined to bring him home. It was Lily who found him. She remembered a small covered alcove behind the library, a place she had once hidden during a game of hide-and-seek. She tugged on her dad's hand and led him there. And there he was. Buddy was curled into a tight ball, shivering and scared from the storm, but safe. Lily let out a cry of pure joy and ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. Buddy licked her face, his tail starting a slow, tired wag. The news spread quickly, and a wave of relief washed over the entire neighborhood. When they brought Buddy back to the park, a small celebration erupted. People cheered and clapped. Mr. Henderson gave Buddy a gentle pat, his eyes misty. That night, everyone knew something had to change. Buddy couldn't keep living under a park bench. As everyone discussed what to do, Mr. Henderson spoke up, his voice quiet but firm. "He can come live with me," he said. "My apartment allows pets. It's been quiet for too long anyway." A cheer went up, louder than the first one. Buddy had a real home. Buddy went to live with Mr. Henderson, and it was a perfect match. The little dog filled the quiet apartment with happy sounds, and Mr. Henderson had a loyal companion to share his days with. But Buddy was still the neighborhood's dog. Lily and her dad visited every day after school. Leo and his friends still took him for walks in the park. Maria would bring over homemade dog treats. Buddy had found a home, but he hadn't lost his big, wonderful family. He had a warm bed and a whole community watching over him. The spirit of kindness that Buddy had awakened did not fade away. People kept talking to each other, they kept helping each other. They organized a neighborhood block party at the end of the summer and then a community garden project the following spring. The park was cleaner and friendlier than it had ever been. A small, lost dog had wandered into their lives and reminded them of a simple truth, that a little bit of kindness can grow into something big and beautiful, and that a community is just a family you haven't met yet, and it all started because of Buddy. Disclaimer: this story is for emotional inspiration and entertainment. Any similarities to real persons or animals are purely coincidental. It is not a substitute for professional advice or treatment.